Hey all, Detchen here. So I'm at work. First of all, let me apologize. Let me just state off the bat, I'm a trans woman, so I have a very deep voice right now. I have a cold, so I apologize if in advance if I cough or anything like that. I'm definitely not feeling well, and I don't look so pretty. I'm not super made up, but whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, no, I wanted to talk today about something I've seen a lot over the years, as a Buddhist and as a millennial Buddhist in particular, and the kind of ongoing sort of generational tensions that exist across society in general, but also exist within the Buddhist Sangha. And I think a lot of it comes down to the idea of respect, and how each generation defines respect. If you look at a lot of the kind of the white convert Buddhist communities, increasingly they're made up of a lot of aging old boomers. A lot of the average age of those people is the gray and white hair age. A lot of people are dying in those sanghas. A lot of people are retired or retiring. You don't see in most white convert Buddhist sanghas a large percentage of millennials or Zoomers. And I have some thoughts on why that is. And it comes down to this generational idea of how each generation defines respect. In my experience, boomers define respect in terms of a kind of hierarchical ladder where, respect is not given equally to everyone, and it's given more to some people than others, even when it is given. So that can mean things like, if you are new to a community, you get less respect than someone who's been there longer. They might not necessarily have a better practice than you. In fact, they might kind of have a shitty practice, to be honest. But they've been there longer, therefore they get more respect than you. That's a very boomer kind of way of looking at things. The person on the throne gets more respect than someone who's not. If you've done certain types of practices, you get more respect than someone who hasn't. So on and so forth. And especially if someone's a priest, they deserve more respect than someone who's not. And that's just the kind of, that's like the old school way that previous generations viewed this concept of respect. It was a hierarchical thing, it was earned, and in some extremes with boomers, this kind of view extended even towards entire races, sexual orientations, things like that. People of a certain skin color deserved less respect than people with a different skin color if they were a racist or something. This entire idea that respect is this tiered ladder that people need to earn their way up and climb up, and some people will never be allowed up. And that's just how it is. In contrast to that, that's not how millennials view respect. That's not how Zoomers view respect, and basically, as far as I know, anybody younger than a millennial, like millennials and youngers, we just don't view respect that way. And so, how do we view respect? Well, we view respect that everyone deserves respect equally, or just across the board, like in the same amount, basically. That if you are a person, you deserve respect until you do something that proves that you don't. So, the default is, I respect you. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a Rinpoche, you can be a novice Buddhist, you deserve equal respect from me. Until you decide to be an asshole, and then probably not going to respect that. But, that's something that is given by default. It's not something that is earned. It's not something you need to climb your way up and get. It's not something that, you get more of than someone else because of your length of time doing something or whatever. We just give you a flat amount of equal respect. Again, until you do something that is clearly unethical or undeserving of that. So respect can be taken away from us, but from the way we view things, but it's given freely as the default. That's just the flat social default. And so the conflict that I've seen between millennial Buddhists and boomers and Zoomers and boomers, just younger generations in general and boomers, both in the world in general, as well as in Buddhist Sanghas, is this idea that, millennials, Zoomers, younger generations will go into a Sangha. And keep in mind, millennials now, I'm 40 years old. I've been a Buddhist my entire life. I've got thousands of hours of training under my belt. Lots of transmissions, lots of practices. It's not my first rodeo. So a millennial can join a Sangha, and yet somebody will be like, well, you're just a young pup. What are you doing? You don't know anything. You haven't earned that respect. And I think it's something that millennials, we all experience, Zoomers experience this, where we'll go in, and a boomer just acts like we're less deserving of respect than they are, even though we're Buddhist practitioners. And so it's especially weird in Buddhism, because when you consider that the countless number of sentient beings, just myriad sentient beings out there, and how few of them choose to be Buddhist. And especially of those people, how few choose to meditate, to really train, to take practice seriously, to really be dedicated to practice. That is so rare. That is that's the real 1%ers right there. That's not even 1%. That's 0.0000001% of sentient beings do that. And so you've got these people who've taken on this incredible thing, this incredible life choice to be Buddhist, to train themselves. And yet, you don't think they deserve respect for that. It's a little weird. From my generation's standpoint, that's weird. And this kind of tension is why I think you see so few young people in so many white convert Buddhist Sanghas. We get tired of being treated like we need to sit at the back of the bus, like we don't have a right to a view, especially when many of us have a lot of training under our belt. We've practiced for years, yet, some boomer over there, has more right to have a valid view than we do. It just doesn't work that way. Reality doesn't work that way. Karma doesn't work that way. You don't know how many lifetimes somebody's practiced in their previous life, how much experience they have. Maybe this is somebody's first time in this life. Maybe they've got 14 lives of being a Buddhist behind them. You don't know. And, so the default from our generation's perspective is just to say, okay, everybody deserves their respect. We're just going to treat people with respect, regardless of their race, their gender, their age, what they've done in their life. Your career path doesn't make you more worthy of respect. We're just going to give everyone respect by default. And if you fuck that up because you're a jerk, then, individually we'll take that away. We won't, we'll say, nope, sorry, I don't respect that. But by default, we give it. And the problem is, this creates a kind of conflict between this generational divide. Because the boomers, according to their definition of respect, millennials and Zoomers and younger, the way we view respect is disrespectful from a boomer perspective. Because if you view that you deserve to be given more respect because you've climbed a ladder, you've put in your dues, you've been there longer, whatever. If that's how you view things, then being given the same respect as everyone else is an insult. And likewise, when millennials and Zoomers and younger, when we participate in a Sangha, when a boomer treats us with less respect and lower amounts of respect than they would other people, we view that as disrespect. Because they're not even giving us the baseline level of respect that everyone deserves from our viewpoint. And this cultural difference of how respect is viewed across these different generations explains why so many millennials and Zoomers just nope the fuck out of the Sangha and set up our own just practices amongst ourselves with our own groups, or we just practice by ourselves or whatever. Maybe we attend festivals and whatever, but we don't always actively participate in certain white convert Buddhist communities, because it's like, from our perspective, it's like, why bother? No matter how long we are there, we're never going to be given equal respect. Because according to the boomer way of viewing things, there is no equal respect. Respect is a graduated level. And so, that's a problem. To the boomers, I would say this, you guys need to accept that the concept of respect, the very definition of like how respect is defined, has changed. And we as millennials and Zoomers and younger have the right to do that, because that's how linear time works. You're not going to live forever, and we grew up in a very different world with different values, with different experiences, and that's just not how things are done now. And so if boomers, like boomer Buddhists, are serious about passing the baton of Buddhism, they need to give up on this idea that younger generations are going to do things the way you did them. We just aren't. If you think you put up with previous generations' lower levels of respect, and now you've climbed the ladder, and so you're up here, and now you have the right to treat like millennials and Zoomers like they're down here, you don't. That's just not how we do things anymore. To us, that's as outdated as racism, as sexism, as being weird about people's gender identity, as homophobia, as any kind of these like old prejudices from the old world that just used to be a thing that aren't anymore. That's as weird to us as the idea that you could smoke in an office, or something. It's just a weird way of thinking to us. We just don't do things that way anymore. And so that's the kind of, what I see is the kind of, the source of this tension. How do we bridge that? I don't think that millennials and Zoomers are going to revert to that old hierarchical way of doing things. We're just not. Some of us will patiently put up with it to a degree, because we know that boomers are boomers, and that's just kind of how things were back in their day, when they climbed uphill both ways in the snow or something. That's how they view things, but we view it like, that's where this phrase, like, okay, boomer, comes from. It's because we know that that's this old way of doing things. It's this outdated way of perceiving things. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on that. And if you have any views on that, I'd love to hear comments. But I think it really needs to kind of start with, boomers, you got to accept that culture has changed. That's just not how we do things anymore. All right. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.